Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about The Warblers by Amber Fallon. And this is from Eraserhead Press. It's just a little tiny slip of a book, and it is the story of the Warblers. The tale is told by Del McDale. He's a 14-year-old farm boy. Sometime in the past, I'm not sure exactly when it is, but Del does mention that having a phone in your home is a luxury, and the McDales do not have a phone in their house. So sometime in the past, on this farm, the McDale family has an infestation of warblers. They're early in the story, all we know is they are a flying creature. They smell bad. They come out at night and they will hunt, kill, and eat family pets, livestock, people, basically whatever they can get their claws on. And so the McDale family has to deal with this situation of warblers. And that's your little nutshell. That's all I'm going to give you at the moment. Now, a little behind the scenes at the Low Budget Review Show. Typically, I post my reviews in the order that I read the books. The exception generally is if I finish a book, I get the review recorded, and the book is coming out within a week or has come out within the past week. I try to get the review up so people can grab the book when it's new. And while that may apply to the Warblers, because I believe it did just come out at the time I'm recording this, within the last week or two, that's not why I'm jumping ahead and posting this review ahead of some other ones. I'm doing it because I really want to get the word out on this book, because it is incredible. I know I'm jumping ahead to that part. And I, excuse me, pardon me, if you look here, at the bottom there, author of The Terminal, Amber Fallon. I read and reviewed The Terminal, and I'll put a link to that review up here somewhere if anybody cares to see it. But basically, I gave that book 3.5 out of 5. And if I'm not mistaken, I did say that the writing was a little bit rough. I enjoyed the story. It was very entertaining. Some good stuff in it. But the writing felt rough. It did seem like something written by a fledgling author. And now, having read this, and there's not a huge amount of time between when The Terminal came out and when this came out, I don't believe. I almost believe in time travel at this point, because it feels like Amber Fallon has spent a decade or more honing her craft. This is the story of a master storyteller. It is written in the first person. Del McDale, 14-year-old farm boy, is the person telling us this story. And not that I'm an expert on 14-year-old farm boys from 100 years ago or however long ago it was, but he sounds so authentic. The language he uses, the way he forms sentences, the way he describes things, to me, sounds like a 14-year-old farm boy from back in the day. Just, excuse me, amazing the way it's written. The way the story itself is told, where we get just little bits and pieces of what the Warblers are and what they do and how they affect not just the McDale family, but the whole community. Other families in this area have been affected by the Warblers. I don't know how widespread Warblers are as far as the country or the world, but we know at least in this in this community, they've been around. They've caused problems, and that's why the McDales know that there is someone that you can call to take care of a warbler infestation, and yet people don't seem to want Mr. McDale to call these people. They're trying to come up with other ways to deal with the warblers. So it's possible that the cure is worse than the disease, as they say. And I should probably mention the McDale family You've got Dell, the 14-year-old. He's got a younger sister, and of course his mother and father. So it's a small family. They did have Dell had a pet dog, but that dog did not come out well after his encounter with the Warblers. Dell, a great character. This is very much a coming-of-age story. Again, at 14, especially on a farm back in the day, Dell could almost be considered an adult already. He definitely is very protective of his younger sister and his mother, and he's thinking in terms. Wow, it's so short. It's actually under 80 pages. The last page is page 82, but it starts on page 5. So you know how those things go. So I don't want to give too much away, but Dell is having some very grown-up thoughts, and I suppose dealing with a situation like the Warblers would cause one to grow up pretty quickly. And it all feels so authentic. I think I've used that word before in this review, but that's just how it feels. It's amazing. The difference in Amber Fallon's writing between the Terminal and this is just amazing. And I'd like to think, even if I hadn't read the Terminal, if I weren't comparing the writing styles, that just if this were the only thing I'd ever read by Amber Fallon, I'd like to think I'd still be just as blown away, because it's a fantastic story. We get to meet some of the neighbors, some of the folks in town, and there is the son of one of their neighbors is in the military. He has a reputation as a almost sociopathic bully, it sounds like. He happens to be home on leave at the time all of this is going on, and he gets involved with the Warbler situation as well. And just such a great story. Sometimes when an author is holding back information because they want to reveal everything, at the end, you're going to have this big scene at the end, and that's when everything's going to be revealed. Sometimes it feels exactly like, oh, the author's purposely holding back information because they want to reveal it later. And that's not the case here. It feels and flows so naturally as Dell tells us the events of this early summer in 1902. I have no idea what year. I just felt like saying 1902. I know I'm gushing, but I'm blown away by this book. I read it in one sitting. Even if it were longer, I would have probably still finished it in one sitting. It's that compelling. It's that well written. Excuse me. At one point, I considered saying I wish it were longer, but obviously the author thought this was the right length for the story, and maybe if it were longer, it would have felt bloated. I can't say. I do know that there are things, ideas in this book that I wouldn't mind seeing expanded upon. I'm going to emphasize things, not necessarily ideas. Things in this book. It seems as if there's much more to the world where this takes place. Once we learn a little more about the Warblers and those who deal with the Warblers. I don't know if Amber Fallon has any intentions of expanding on that, showing us more of this world, but they're fascinating characters and things in this story that I wouldn't mind seeing more of. So, before I just gush all over the computer screen here, I'm going to show you my rating. And before I show you my rating, I will tell you this is the second time I've recorded this review, because the first time, as I was doing it, as I was holding up my pictures for the rating, I realized I'd made a mistake. So I'll tell you what my rating is. And I went with the Warblers on the McDale property, are holed up in an old shed in the backyard. So I give the Warblers by Amber Fallon 6 out of 5 old wooden sheds. And now you can see over here, this one's kind of offset. You can kind of tell I did 5 and then threw this other one in because I realized I gave it 5 out of 5. As I was recording the review previously, I realized that was a mistake. It really is a 6 out of 5 book. That's how good it is. That's how much you should read it. It defies the laws of mathematics. It's so good. I've done a few other 6 out of 5s, but I don't hand them out willy-nilly. But just as I was talking about it, I realized this has to be a 6 out of 5. This book is amazing, fantastic, a must-read. So, all that gushing out of the way, I will have 1 or 2 links for the book in the description below. I got mine from Amazon, so I know I'll have a link for that. I don't know if Barnes & Noble's, which is the other place I usually link to, I don't know if they'll have it available, but we'll see. Just check the description below. You'll see what links are there. And you've got to use those links. You've got to pick this up. Support Amber Fallon. I want her to keep writing. If it's anything like this, I'm going to read it. And I think I said that when I reviewed The Terminal, that, you know, she was a new author I was going to keep my eye on. I enjoyed that book well enough that I wanted to see what she did next. And I know she's had some other things, short stories and stuff, but this is just the second thing that I've read, and holy moly, it's just, I'm blown away. So, once again, links in the description below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. If you want any more details about the story itself, you can ask me, and we'll talk about it. I'd much rather you go buy the book, read it, and we can talk about it in the comments, because nobody I know in the real world reads. And I don't get to talk about these books with anybody except online. I dig that cover as well. I believe it's by Eric Wilson, I want to say. But it's pretty, that's a nice little cover. So, comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.